Okay, we're using their spare labor.
Exactly.
I'm
okay.
assuming, that might make an ass out of you. I'm pretty sure the Bay Area stats.
Well,
would
what
track
happens when
the
you
same
say,
way.
I presume? Then you make a...
Presume instead of assume?
Yeah. Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. And Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage, we're going to get into that in just a minute. The question, what group sang the song Walk Like an Egyptian?
Bengals.
The Bengals, very good.
The only
Mark
reason I
Hanf.
remember that is because they had some hot chicks.
That is true. You can always remember because of that. Okay.
At least they were hot in '86.
Yeah, that was 20, how much, 26 years ago?
Too many years
that's
ago.
Too many years ago. Okay, in fact, Walk Like an Egyptian, they were there at the time when that was going on. Okay, Robert, question for you from a listener here. It says, what differentiates you from other mortgage brokers? In other words, why are you the man?
There are many ways to answer that, but RPM Mortgage is not just a broker. We're a combination of a mortgage bank and a broker, so that RPM is big enough that they can fund most of the loans they do themselves. At the same time, if for whatever reason there's an independent bank other than us that has a better deal for that specific person, then we can go there. So I have the benefit for my clients of being able to broker out loans to big banks or credit unions or obscure mortgage banks that you've probably never heard of.
So is that what happens? Like someone comes to you for a loan, and the first thing you do is you find out what RPM is quoting, and then you also compare it to other companies?
Well, the first thing I'll do is have a long conversation with them trying to ascertain what it is they're trying to accomplish. But once I get a grasp of what the parameters of the loan are, then I will research and see what our bank has to offer and look at all the other places that we deal with and find out what's the best deal that I'm going to get those people.
Sure, because some people are only going to want a loan for short term, or they can only afford so much, so they need an arm. Of course, nowadays arms are probably about not too far different from fixed mortgages, aren't they?
Well, but I was just talking to someone today at the title company. They said they're doing quite a few arms in the upper scale loans, like $1 or $2 million. They had somebody getting a 10-year arm at like 2.5%. So,
sold.
Yes, unbelievable.
Well,
so a lot of people since the last few years, some of the brokerages have closed. The big banks, Wells Fargo or B of A, took on a large percentage of the market, but and I suggest clients to maybe check out with their local bank too, but most of the times they have one product to offer, and we can go to many different sources. So we usually can find something in each particular case that's probably better than they can get at their one individual
Yeah, I mean,
bank.
it doesn't hurt them to do some shopping around.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I like about Robert, is that he's really honest. He doesn't say, "Oh no, don't talk to those banks. Just come to me." You welcome it.
I'm in it for the long haul, so you need satisfied clients.
Right, and there's been such a consolidation in this industry, and one of the great things about RPM is that you guys have become really industry leaders outside of the big banks, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to walk into, or when I walk into Wells Fargo or B of A and I see these young fresh-faced kids sitting behind the desk, I don't know that person's necessarily a quote mortgage expert who's got years and years of experience like you do.
He has it on his card. It must be.
Yeah. Days of experience.
Yeah, the ink may still be wet, but it's on that card.
Mark, we have an email question here for you. This guy sounds like he's probably more of an experienced investor, I'm guessing, because it says, I have tried to find deals on my own, but I'm having a hard time. How do you get such good deals?
And we're what's known as a hard money lender. Some call us a private money lender, and we make loans to real estate investors because the banks pretty much have stopped doing that the last several years. They're focused on doing consumer home loans, and we make loans to real estate investors who are generally buying real estate to fix and flip or to hold for investment purposes. And the source of the money, we're not a bank. We use private individual capital to fund those loans. And so, at the beginning of the show, Edward mentioned that we're one of the fastest growing private lenders. We're also one of the fastest growing resources for people who have self-directed IRAs and are looking to invest in alternative, higher yielding type of investments. And so we provide what's known in the investment industry as trust deed investment opportunities for people with savings who are looking to achieve higher yields. And what do I mean when I say higher yields? Well, I mean 8% or more annualized return on your investments on these trust deed secured notes. So we originate a loan to a real estate investor. It's secured by local property here in the Bay Area. It's a conservative loan to value, generally no higher than 65 or 70% of today's value of that property. And the investor who funds that loan receives an interest rate, fixed annual rate for 1, 2, or 3 years, anywhere from 8 to 10% is the typical range. So that's the backdrop. Robert?
I have a question, and some people have asked me, well, I don't think I can invest in that in my IRA. And you said the keyword self-directed IRA, so maybe you should let people know what a self-directed IRA is and how they can take their IRA and become a self-directed IRA so they could utilize this kind of investing and talk to you about it.
Well, and that's very, very important. And most of us have IRAs of some form or fashion, or 401ks, and generally the bulk of them are held by investment houses like, and I'm just going to throw out some names, they may be with a bank, they might be with Merrill Lynch or Schwab accounts, but those you can self-direct in quotes. Your broker there will tell you, well, you can choose any stock you want. But true self-direction is you can invest in stocks, you can invest in bonds or mutual funds, but you could also invest in real estate or real estate secured notes or jewelry or gold or whatever, or even businesses. There's a lot of things you can invest in with a self-directed account. And the challenge is that Schwab and Merrill and the other investment houses, they're not set up to deal with that type of self-direction.
Well, they also don't want it because it takes money away from their
core business of selling securities, right?
So if people are listening, or people talk to me and say, well, that's a great idea, but I went and I found that I can't invest in that kind of investment in my IRA. So what are you talking about? How would I suggest to those people or people that are listening to find out about making their IRA become a self-directed IRA?
So if you Google self-directed IRA, what's going to come up on page 1 of Google are all the companies that specialize in hosting your self-directed IRA. They're called IRA custodians. IRA custodians. And so, for example, in the Bay Area, we've got several companies that are IRA custodians. And for example, IRA Services is one, AccuPlan is another, Entrust is another. There's a dozen more, Pensco, sure. And I have clients who utilize all of those different IRA custodians, and they are specifically, their business model is they're set up to take your money and that it is insured. They are regulated, and you open up an account with them, and you can roll over your monies from another 401k or another IRA into that, and there's no tax consequence for that. And you can then take those monies once it's been transferred and opened up, and then you can start investing in alternative investments such as trust deed secured notes for higher interest.
But by doing that, you don't lose any of the advantages you had before, except if you're at Schwab, you don't get the advice of a Schwab accountant.
That's exactly. You don't lose the advantages. So, for example, Roth IRAs are extremely popular. That's one form of a self-directed IRA, and a lot of folks will have a Roth IRA, self self-directed Roth IRA in addition to other IRAs they have, and they'll use that for tax-free growth.
You know, I want to make a point here because the listener was asking about finding deals on his own compared to like how you do it, and the two of you are here. So I think it's kind of interesting because I'm kind of guessing that sometimes people will come to you, Robert, for a loan, maybe not for their own personal house, for investment
on
property.
both sides. I mean, I may get a client and I'm looking at it, and they have all this money sitting there at hopefully 0.5%, and I, depending on their age and what I sense about them, I might bring up especially because I know Mark and know how trustworthy and honorable he is.
But the other part of it too is
so it comes on both sides.
But yeah, because people might come to you for a loan, and if they can get a loan from you at 3%, obviously that's what's best for them. But if they can't qualify with you, then you can turn it over to Mark, and Mark can potentially lend them the
absolutely.
money.
I mean, people.
And that's one of the reasons why you get good deals.
People find or want to buy a house, and there are benefits to it, and they come to me, and I say, well, no, you can't really do that now by the criteria, but let's look at a 2-year plan. You can go, and it probably is worthwhile to do this, especially now the way rates are low and the real estate prices are low. Go to Mark or go to a private money lender and make sure you buy that property at today's prices, and then over the next year or two you can accumulate some equity and have your finances solidify in a way that you'll be able to get out and get normal financing.
Excellent. Okay, we are going to cut to our third commercial break. Here's the trivia question. And again, it's Billboard #1 hits of 1986. Were you even born then, Robert?
I was going deaf by then.
Okay, going deaf by then. Okay, who sang "Addicted to Love"? And here's the hint: the backup girls, they all kind of looked alike. Mark, audience, I wish you could see this. The video, yeah, very good, very good. Answer this question. Who sang "Addicted to Love"? And if you can dance like Mark, then you automatically win. Okay, because all the backup girls kind of looked alike, and they danced a certain
Androgynous.
way. Yeah, that's right. Again, don't touch that dial because we're going to get into some other economic issues here on The Best of Investing. We'll be right back.
The androgynous zone.
That's right.
The cameraman was dancing also there.
Was he dancing? Do you remember that song? Yeah, he's just swaying back and forth.
It doesn't consider
maybe
Ray
what-
Charles. I know those.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if that
right.
qualifies as
Stevie-
dancing.
no,
Yeah, right.
Stevie-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Elaine Bettis dancing.
Lane Bettis.
Yeah.
On Seinfeld.
Yeah, that was very good.
Oh, remember this?
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
the thumbs? I'm a good dancer, right? Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hoff of Pacific Private Money and Robert Schiff of RPM Mortgage. When we cut to the third and final trivia question, commercial break, we asked a song. Who sang "Addicted to Love" and had backup sing girls who all looked alike? Okay, Mark, start dancing for us.
Robert Palmer.
Robert Palmer. Very good.
Indeed.
All right, now, Mark, but when we cut to break, you were letting us know that you didn't. There's a few more things you wanted to add to.
Well,
the
you
question.
asked him a question and we got
I actually
sidetracked and never answered it.
I never answered the listener's question, which was, I've tried to find investments on my own was the question, and how do you find your investments? And so I want to just real briefly talk about that there are people who are looking on their own for trust deed investments. Maybe they're doing private lending on their own. They might be lending money to borrowers on their own and just using a title company. There are people out there doing it. My suggestion is don't. With all of the regulations that have been passed in the last couple of years, first of all, you're exposing yourself to usury issues. If you charge
Exactly.
more than 10%, a lot of people that are privately lending on their own are in fact exposing themselves to that.
And if
There's
they
so
charge-
many new regulations.
Oh
and
yeah,
so
I mean,
many
if they
new
charge
laws.
9%, but they charge points, you're still over the
Yeah.
10%.
And they'll find out if they made some little mistake, and the people could get a lawyer and find out they made a mistake, they may totally lose their investment. The clients could come back and say, since you did it wrong, we no longer owe you the money. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure how
So-
much they can get away from paying.
No,
all
the penalty for
principal.
doing it
It's all
wrong
the
is that,
interest.
you forfeit all the interest. If
Yeah,
you do this wrong and you do this on your own, and you really want to use an experienced and reputable hard money loan broker who's a licensed California real estate broker to invest in trust deeds, because those of us in this business who are doing it correctly today, we have to attend an awful lot of classes and are members of the California Association of Hard Money Lenders.
Even I've had people come to me and their family wanted to lend them money to help buy a place, or it wasn't a gift, it was a loan. And I suggest all the time, instead of trying to fabricate the paperwork or even just go to a title company, you should go to someone who's going to make sure that it's
Go
done
to a private loan broker and have it done correctly.
and nobody knows it better than somebody like Mark.
Exactly.
Or
It is a regulated industry. The good news is that you can get a fabulous interest rate on your savings if you make trust deed secured loans on local property here. But if you don't use the services of a professional like Pacific Private Money, you can find yourself in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. But guys, we only have like another minute and a half to go. Talk a little bit about the fiscal cliff and what else is going on there.
Well, we were talking about actually before we came back on about the real estate. The real estate news seems, it's great. The prices are up 10%, and we're in a recovering market. And Robert, you brought up a good point.
Yeah, we're recovering, and there are multiple offers, and things are being sold for more than the asking price. But how can that go in line with that 25 to 30% of the people who own homes nationwide are underwater?
And with the storms we've had, I think most houses are underwater today.
Yeah, if not blown away.
That's exactly right.
I think there's part of the news is trying to pump itself up and pump the market up and make people feel more anxious about jumping in and buying, talk it up.
Sure.
But there is reality too that although so many people are underwater, that in certain geographic areas the market is really strong. In the Bay Area, San Francisco and its surrounds, there wasn't that much of a drop-off from the height, and there's certainly been a quicker recovery. So.
Okay. And remember, it's height, not height.
It is height.
Yeah. There is no such word as height. Guys, we're going to have to cut out here. So here are our thoughts for the day. Until coffee gained popularity, the beverage of choice for breakfast in most urban areas of the U.S. was
mead.
Beer.
Oh.
What?
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I want to visit those places. And I don't know if the listeners know this, but I'm financially set for life, providing I die within a week. And with that encouraging news, we're going to invite you to tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. And next week's guest is going to be Ronnie Moore, who's going to discuss what never to say to contractors or car salesmen. That ought to be pretty interesting. You're going to not want to miss this show next week. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.
Easy peasy.
Okay, and away we go. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing on News Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. Imagine, if you will, a few guys sitting around a bar having drinks, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender. And today's trivia theme is scientists. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. We're also on television, Comcast Channel 26, on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Now, today's special guest is Lizandra Vega, who's going to discuss business office etiquette with us. And since we're getting close to the holiday shopping season, we thought it would be kind of fun to have Lizandra join us from New York. And first of all, Lizandra, how did Hurricane Sandy treat you?
Not great, but thank you for having me on the show. I am still recovering from Sandy. She left a lot of debris everywhere and trees, but luckily I do have power, so I feel fortunate.
Great.
So, Lizandra, I guess we're going to talk about a little bit about holiday gift etiquette in the office space. And so, what's the first thing I should do before I go running out and buying gifts either online or elsewhere for my coworkers, supervisors, and or subordinates?
Well, the first thing you should do is check with the human resources policy, because so many companies have policies against giving gifts. So you
What?
want to make sure that before you go out to buy a whole slew of gifts, that you check that out and make sure that it's okay to do so.
So I can't just buy the office a whole bunch of $25 Safeway cards to go out and buy turkeys?
Not a bad idea.
If Human Resources has a policy against it, because you can be fired.
I can imagine.
That's no fun. I mean, they take...
You're trying to do something nice, and it can really backfire because of just a lot of issues with bribery and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
So
In fact,
you may have great intentions. It may be looked upon as, you're buying something to get a favor back.
Lizandra, that's a good point. I have a building where this is many years ago, that I offered a nice little, gift for my tenant because he paid the rent on time, etc.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, I can't accept this. And I said, really? Why? And he says, well, I do a lot of work for the government. And he says, we're not allowed to accept gifts.
Right.
Wow.
Of course, that was in the old days when people had integrity. But let me ask you. Okay,
surprised.
Okay.
Surprised.
Now here's a good question for you. How much should you spend on an office gift?
Typically, no more than $25. That should be your maximum if you are authorized to buy a gift, and if you wish to buy a gift, that is what is allowed as a tax deduction for your taxes. So for a gift, and so $25 is really the max. And that way, $25 buys something that is nice, moderate. You're not going overboard. You're not breaking the bank, and it also doesn't look like it's bribery because it's.
Listen, for $25, I can be bribed, so I'm not sure about that. Give me a Starbucks card. Yeah. Also, what types of gifts do you think would be deemed business appropriate? Because, obviously, sending lingerie to your female boss probably is not. We can all guess that one.
Absolutely. Nothing too personal. I would stay away from clothing, apparel, anything that has to be sized, because you can buy something for someone in a large size just because you don't really know, or you're a person who doesn't really you can't really gauge what that person's size is, and you have all great intentions, and then all of a sudden it's an extra large, and you're giving it to a woman, and the woman feels fat.
Or
you gave her an extra large, and she's actually a medium.
And I could see the opposite too.
I would suggest things like food baskets, gift cards, things that that show that you have paid attention to the type of person that they are, and their hobbies and things like that. And it makes you seem like you are somebody who is paying attention and intuitive, not somebody who's just looking to just. Well,
Lizandra, it reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where Poppy had a gastrointestinal issue, and they gave him fire hot chili sauce. And also, that other part about the sizes, that can backfire the other way, where you buy someone a size 2 and they're a size 14.
Absolutely, absolutely, and right, and then gift receipts. Then the person goes and exchanges it and sees that it's a clearance item, and you 50 cents, and they spent $25 on you. So things that are not really so returnable are great.
Well, usually I just go to Costco and get all the free food samples and wrap those up. But
right,
that's
or
just
go
me.
to Tax Fifth Avenue and get the little free perfume.
Yeah, there you go. My wife loves those.
Hey, Lizandra, should I feel obligated to send my holiday, put my coworkers on my holiday card list?
Especially me.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. I think that it's a nice thing if you give them a holiday card that you write, but not necessarily one with the picture of your kids or your pets. That's really personal, and unless you are friends with that coworker outside of the office, I certainly wouldn't feel obligated to add them to the Christmas list.
Now, you notice that I said holiday cards and not Christmas cards, so I guess we have to be careful with all of that.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Right, that's right.
Hey, how about our boss? What type of gift is suitable for a boss?
Again, I personally think that giving the boss a gift is a little bit. It's a little bit tricky because, again, it could seem like you're brown-nosing the boss. But in a situation where perhaps you are the boss's right-hand person or personal assistant, where you know a lot about the person, then perhaps it is appropriate to give a gift. And again, I would give something that is related to work. Sometimes I know it seems like a cliche, but a paperweight or something like this person drinks tea or
how about just taking them out to lunch?
A specific coffee shop. Or gets their shoes shined at a special place every morning.
No, that's a good.
So maybe a gift card to there.
What about maybe just inviting them out to lunch? To places that they like.
I think that again, it can be misconstrued.
Okay.
A lot of times, bosses and their say assistants or staff members will only have dinner or lunch when it's around a meeting, and so to invite, it sort of puts the boss on the spot. They may not have the time. They may be traveling all the time. They may go from they may have a very hectic schedule, and it may put them in a position of saying no, which in turn starts
that's
to
a good point.
Make an awkward situation for everyone.
So what about group gifts for the boss? I know that I used to do that in my first job every Christmas or every holiday period. We'd all chip in and buy the boss something nice. Is that still something that's popular and or socially acceptable?
It's done. It's definitely done within smaller to mid-sized companies and or departments where it's smaller, tight-knit staff. And sure, and again, you shouldn't have to feel obliged to be a part of it.
I could see that being
If you're
kind
somebody who just started and you don't, I mean, it may come across as you being cheap. I think you have to really use your judgment.
Well, also, you got to be careful. Some people are going to want to participate, some aren't, and pitching in. But I tell you what,
And one of the things that we do in my office, and I've seen, is that it may seem unfair for those who do contribute, but everybody's name goes on the card regardless of whether they give or not.
I mean, maybe just have them sign a bigger name. And the little ones who don't participate, you tell them to sign little. Okay,
right.
Lizandra.
Well, the ones who give sign the card, and the ones who don't, just their name. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, tell you what,
I
Lizandra, stay with us in the studio because we have to cut to a commercial break, and listeners, stay tuned because Lizandra has a gift that she wants to give out, but that we're going to have a little contest for during the break. But by the way, what is the name of your book?
It's called The Image of Success. Make a great impression and land the job you want.
Oh, that's an excellent topic. Okay, so here is our first commercial break. And let's see here. Okay, you've got to get the right piece of paper here. Here we go.
What's the theme?
Okay, the
for
theme is
this week?
scientists. Scientists, okay. Which scientist had a dog that would associate ringing a bell with food and salivate? And we'll be right back. Excellent. You having fun?
Yes.
Good. Good job. Okay, we are ready for segment 2.
All right.
Okay, let me see here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the trivia question, and then I'm going to mention that the first 2 callers who call in and ask for the book are going to receive it, and then we'll get into the Secret Santa. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so away we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, and we're in the studio here with Lizandra Vega, who is teaching us about holiday gift giving for our bosses and co-workers. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question: which scientist had a dog that would associate ringing a bell with food and salivate? Mark, you're salivating now. What is that? No.
Well, I've been hearing all my life about Pavlov's dog.
Pavlov's dog.
I know he had a dog anyway.
He had a dog. That's right. And we're gonna have for the gift of Lizandra's book, which again, what's the name of it?
It's called The Image of Success.
The Image of
Make a great
Success.
impression and land the job you want.
Excellent. Okay, so for starting right now, the first 2 callers who say, "Please send me the book," we will forward that on to Lizandra, and she will send you the book. And Lizandra, let's get right back into the questions we have. The next one has to do with Secret Santa, and how do you feel about that? And I got a quick little story. We had done a Secret Santa about 5 years ago in our office, and it worked well the first year. The very next year, it's one of those, you pick someone's name out of a hat, nobody knows what it is, and you put it right. I was the only one not to get a gift.
Oh.
And I mean, it was like very disheartening. And we're talking about, and we're only talking about $5 items too. We said, no, you can't spend more than $5. And I was like, gosh, this is, and what ended up happening was I found out who it was, and the person just was a little bit old and just forgot, Oh, great, I happen to get that person, So anyway,
I had a similar situation, and I was really disappointed because when I give a gift, I really spend a lot of time choosing the gift and wrapping it and finding the right bow for it and really obsessing over it. And for me, presentation is very important, even if the gift is small. And I had a similar situation at work where we had a secret Santa, or secret Shlomo, as we called it, nest, and everybody was getting gifts. It was like every day you got a little something, and then it led up to the big gift at the end of like Friday. And again, everybody was getting these little gifts, and every morning a cup of coffee or something, and I wasn't getting anything, and it was really, like, I took it personally. I thought maybe the person didn't like me. It turned out that it was somebody who
had died.
Later fired. Who was injured.
Oh, jeez.
So did you call that person and say, you owe me gifts?
Right, and then the person, then I ended up getting something from the office manager. Like, the person finally realized it because I was hemming and hawing so much, and I was telling everybody, my secret Santa
hates my
guts. Anything with that. And then at the end, I ended up getting a plant. And it was like not very personalized either, but it was something. And then I found out that the office manager finally figured out, this person is no longer there, and so they got me something from the company or whatever.
That's still no excuse. That person still owes you a gift.
Exactly.
Do you want to?
Exactly.
So
that's what was happening, because very often you're not going to get the same person who got you. The other thing that has happened to me is that I've gotten the same person 3 years in a row. I've had to give. I picked the same name of the same person.
Wow.
3 years in a row.
Well, my brother keeps sending me the same Christmas card. For years we kept sending it back and forth to each other, just adding something to it. It's actually kind of fun. Mark's got a question for you.
Exactly. So and very often what's happened to me also is that I don't know the person who I've picked if it's in a larger company. And so when that started to happen, when I first started my very first company, we were a small company, and then we started to grow and grow and grow, and I was with that company for 8 years, and by the end of that time period, I decided not to do it anymore because I didn't know the people who I was picking, and I felt like, who am I buying for?
Yeah, it's just all commercialized.
It just diminished the whole fun of it. I don't know, I couldn't even see the person's expression when they opened the gift. That was fun.
Yeah, Mark's got a question for you.
Hey, so I'm the boss of my little company, and so what should I be considering when I'm choosing gifts for my staff?
Quality, number one thing. I think that oftentimes owners and bosses think that the gift is in lieu of or similar to a bonus, which is given based on merit. And when you're choosing a gift, it's really a whole other thing, and everybody gets to see what it is. Again, a small anecdote, I was at a company where the gifts were sort of tiered. I worked in a sales environment, and they made it based on your productivity, and it just wasn't the right thing to do.
No,
it wasn't about that. It was supposed to be about holiday spirit. A bonus is a whole other story. So that's what I think. I think equality is so, because then it becomes, it deflates morale within the company, and that's exactly what you don't want to happen. You want gifts to uplift your staff, and when everybody's opening, it's like, everybody got the same thing. It's an acknowledgement. It's a token.
So how about client gifts? Are they still considered, well, I guess they're appropriate. A lot of guys do client gifts, but
Yeah, I mean, client gifts can be, again, a little dicey. You should also find out from the client whether their company allows them to accept gifts, because a lot of times we had a situation where we sent a very good client tickets to see a show, and they were sent back because the company had a policy where they could not accept the gifts, and he did not want to jeopardize his position for these theater tickets.
Yeah, that can be kind of embarrassing on all
yeah, you really
parts.
have to find out. And sometimes what I like to do, and I learned this from my very first manager, my very first boss, is that around Christmas, the holiday times, I happen to celebrate Christmas, but I like to take my clients out to a special lunch or a special dinner if they have the time, because that allows me to do something thoughtful and special for them, take them somewhere where I would normally not take them, and it allows me to interact and just really strengthen the relationship with that client, and that's ultimately what you want when you want to strengthen the relationship.
Well, Lizandra, usually I just hand them a Post-it note that says thanks, and I can't figure out why I don't have any more clients. But a question for you: how should you open the gift in front of the gift giver?
Yes. Yes. As someone who gives a lot of gifts, I find it to be so rude when the person just puts it away and doesn't. It's almost like they're not acknowledging the gift, or they're too busy to open it, or it's inconvenienced them, or they think you might not have chosen something that they like, and
they don't want an awkward moment
to return it. Right, I like to see the person open the gift. I think that it's very gracious, and so that's what I say.
And that's an interesting answer, because I've often thought that, well, maybe I should be taking it home and sticking it under my Christmas tree and opening it up Christmas Day. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that you should.
Those are your personal gifts. Those are the gifts that your family and close friends give you. I personally don't even do that. If somebody gives me a gift, I don't leave it under the tree to open it. I like to open the gift and acknowledge it in front of the person.
That makes sense.
I think it's just so much more gracious.
Yeah. Well, and what about thank you cards? Should you be giving out thank you cards for office gifts?
Immediately. And
that's why I carry the notepad with me.
A group gift, as you mentioned, is it a good idea to give a group gift? And I've often gotten a group gift from my staff. It doesn't mean that you give a group thank you. Each person it may seem like a pain to have to write every single person a thank you note when they gave a group gift, but it's really gauche to give one thank you card, and put everybody's name, or just say thank you everyone for what you gave.
Well, you know what's funny is I remember when I used to bowl a lot, there was one guy who was getting married at the bowling alley, and so we all pitched in and got him a barbecue because we knew he liked the barbecue.
Right.
And
that's a nice gift.
It was very nice, and this was terrible though. He actually told us. He said or told me. He says, you know what? I don't want to just say. He goes, why don't you just tell everyone on the loudspeaker? Just go thanks for me. Oh, great. So I did it, and I embarrassed him with it, too. I said, yep. He said that he wants me to say thank you. So, okay, now here's another question for you, because it goes on to the thank you notes. Is there a time frame between the time you receive the gift and when you should write the thank you note? And the reason I'm asking this is because I'm still waiting for the thank you note for the great 8-track player I gave my boss in 1979.
I say immediately, but of course that's not always realistic. So within the week, typically what I say in terms of writing a thank you note if you've gone on an interview is 24 hours. That doesn't necessarily apply for a gift, but think about it. It is business. It's not your friend. It's not your aunt or your grandma who gave you a gift. It's somebody who didn't really have to give you a gift. So to acknowledge it as quickly as possible is best, because then you get so busy with other things that you may not, it may fall through the cracks, and that's looked upon so poorly. And those are the types of things that you always remember about that person.
Sure. And then
That they didn't write a thank you note.
And Lizandra, thank you so much. Were there any last thoughts or tips on holiday gift etiquette before we have to cut you loose?
Not to go overboard with overspending. It's a tough economy, and even when it's not a tough economy, it's not something that you have to overspend. Really take some time and think about what it is that you might want. What is it that you want your gift to say about who you are and what you think about the person, and do it that way instead of overspending.
Lizandra Vega, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we have to cut to our second commercial break, and the theme is scientists.
Mad scientist.
Mad scientists, yes. Okay, now Isaac Newton was known for his research on gravity. Remember
He was not a mad scientist.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, that's true. He didn't invent gravity with apple falling. He just kind of observed it, right? However, which branch of mathematics is he credited for developing? He didn't invent it, but he developed it. He's credited for developing it more. And we'll be right back. Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, and I'm here in the studio with Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Isaac Newton was known for his research on gravity. However, which branch of mathematics is he credited for developing?
Well, you know, I always remember hearing as a kid that Isaac Newton discovered gravity, and I used to think to myself, well, was everybody just kind of floating around, you know?
Until he figured it out.
Before he figured it out.
That is true.
I hate showing my ignorance, and
Yeah.
you got to stop asking these technical questions. I don't know the answer to that one.
Calculus. And in fact, what it ended up,
Calculus.
the reason
I hate him.
the reason he developed it was he was trying to explain planetary rotation to his friends. They couldn't get it, so he but he developed calculus.
That
Pretty
guy,
cool, huh?
that guy would be an internet billionaire today.
Oh, yeah.
At
Yeah,
the age
he's-
of 25.
Yeah, he was pretty sharp. Now, we have an email here that we received from Mark, and it is, once I have decided to invest with Pacific Private Money, sounds like a new client, when do you need my funds, and when do I start to earn interest?
We have two types of clients that we serve. We are private money loan originators. We make loans to real estate investors, and so we have borrower clients who come to us with loan applications that the banks right now are generally not funding, and the banks right now are generally not funding loans to real estate investors. And so those investors out there that are looking to buy, fix, and flip real estate in this market, or maybe buy rental property, or maybe they own commercial property and they need cash out financing, oftentimes today if you go to the bank with that loan request, they politely decline, because quite frankly they're making gobs of money right now doing consumer home loan purchases, and they're generally not really interested in investment property lending today. So Pacific Private Money was formed in 2008 after the subprime meltdown and after the banks pulled back their lending. And so we serve that market that they've largely vacated. And so we do a pretty steady business, as do a lot of companies throughout America. But in the Bay Area, there are several companies like ours that are in the business of making these types of loans. And the other type of client we serve, and it's related to the question, is we fund these real estate loans using private individual capital. We're using money coming from people's retirement savings, and a very popular source of funds is people's self-directed IRA accounts, because people open up self-directed IRAs for the purpose of being able to invest in what's called alternative asset classes, meaning alternative to stocks and bonds. And quite possibly the goal is to get higher yields on your savings.
Which people a lot of people don't realize that in order to retire, they really are going to need a fairly good interest rate on that money, especially if it's going to be compounding over a number of years.
Well, and that's what's made private lending, also known as trust deed investing, you can look that up on the web. There's a lot of articles on the internet that will explain a little more the ins and outs of trust deed investing. But it's become very, very popular in the last several years because we're living in a zero interest rate environment. And so CD returns are dismal. Bond returns, for the most part, are fairly low. Stock returns, well, those are called equities because it's an equity play. You don't know what your return is going to be. However, when you loan your money, when you fund a security instrument, which is what funding a loan is known as, you're guaranteed usually a fixed interest rate. And so the loans we originate to our real estate investor borrowers are typically between 9 and 11% fixed interest for 1, 2, or 3 year periods, and it's secured by local real estate. We only loan on local Bay Area real estate. And so the person, the client who funds that loan will typically earn on average 1% below the note rate. So if the note rate's 10%, the investor will receive 9%, and they'll receive that monthly because our borrowers make monthly interest payments.
Isn't that amazing? So the monthly interest is like 0.75% per month.
Per month,
That's
right.
more than people are getting in a whole year.
Yeah, right, on a 6 month or 1 year CD.
So the question about, when do you need the funds by, and when do they start earning the interest?
And that's what makes it this, trust deed investing a little bit interesting, if I may say. And that is because many of the loan applications I get, and the reason the borrowers are willing to pay a higher rate is because we're generally expected to provide a fast funding, a fast loan. And so oftentimes I'll get a phone call and they got to close a real estate transaction very, very quickly. They were the low bidder. They probably had to do no contingencies, close in 10 days. So by the time I get the loan application, the clock's ticking, and then they got to close next week. So my investor clients, those who are funding the loans we originate, the experienced ones have learned that they need to be able to make a decision quickly. Now, they're not making a decision in a vacuum. We still have collected all of the information on the borrower. We've got the loan application, we've got their credit report, we've got their background check.
Sure, they're not doing it blindly.
No, we've got the preliminary title report, we've got pictures, we may have an appraisal, we certainly have an MLS listing if it's a purchase. So we've got all the data so they can make an informed decision. And of course, we've been doing this a long time. We've done 400 loans in the last 4 years, so we kind of know what we're doing, as do many good private lending companies in the Bay Area. But it is a quick decision. So they usually need to be able to supply their funds within as low as 3 to 4 days to as much as maybe 7 to 10 days. So there is a little bit, every deal's a little bit different. So it could be, they should be prepared to be able to fund that loan within a week, sometimes a little bit shorter.
So now, how much time though, how does the process work? Do you call a client and say, I've got one for you, and then they have a certain amount of time to decide?
We do it a couple of ways, and I'll tell you, it's actually, what's interesting about our business model is that email is the most efficient way to send a investment opportunity to several hundred potential clients. And we do have a fairly healthy list of investors who want to see our trust deed investment opportunities, our loan funding opportunities. And the problem is, though, is sometimes we'll get a number of loan applications, and in a perfect world, we'd be able to pick up the phone, make a few phone calls, find someone who wants it. But it's really, when time is of the essence, I got to shoot it out sometimes to 50, 75, maybe 100 investors. And that's more efficient for us as a company. But we've run into some situations lately where if it's a particularly good loan, we'll get, immediately within a few hours, we'll get email responses or phone calls from clients saying, I really like that loan, send me more information. And it's like, oops, you just sold it 5 minutes ago to somebody else. So it is an interesting game where the people who've been doing this for a while tend to have a little bit of an advantage. But when I get calls from new clients, oftentimes I will hand carry a deal or two or three to them.
Well, because you want them to be a long-term client.
Give them an opportunity to look.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to cut to our third and final trivia question commercial break. And again, the theme is scientists. Are you ready for this one? Okay, Einstein's E equals mc squared. What does C stand for? And we'll be right back.
Energy equals mass times candy squared.
There you go, candy. Anybody?
Corn.
Anybody? Corn.
I don't know. I should know it. I used to know it.
Mark, this is embarrassing. I'm just kidding.
You're setting me up with these questions.
I know.
Kramer, do you know?
Just
You're thinking
just
too,
keep your
huh?
hands together.
I was in college way too long ago.
And
That was before Einstein invented it.
It's
fortunately, I
true.
saw it a month ago and I can't still comprehend it.
Well, I don't understand the.
Why it's relevant?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I don't understand how the equation actually
Works?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, candy. I mean, how does candy have? I mean, if that was the answer, right? It's not, but that's cool. One thing I wanted to cover is I just saw an email or not a website news article. The owner of Denny's restaurant is going to start charging 5% surcharge to offset Obamacare.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And,
Yeah, let's talk about that. And then I got an article in the weekend paper that featured Brian Burke and Jeff Lerman
Yeah.
and Kathy Fettke. And I think the article itself is a puff piece. And,
Sure.
there's no new information that, anybody paying attention didn't already know. But I
It was kind of fun. We can talk about how we use it previous.
Yeah.
Oh, let me see how much time we have here. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, and I'm here in the studio with the best California private lender I know, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money.
Oh, you're too kind.
Too kind. Okay, well, here, we got the question for you. Einstein's
Now you're setting me up.
I'm setting you up for a big one. Okay, Einstein's E equals MC squared. What does C stand for?
Well, I went to college before he'd even invented that,
That's
that
true.
theory. So no, energy equals mass times what squared? C. I don't know. Candy? What is
No, the velocity of light. I know it has nothing to do with C, but energy,
C.
equals,
Oh,
energy
duh.
equals mass
I
times
got
the
thrown
velocity
off.
of light squared. So the answer, C equals the velocity of light.
I'm really not as stupid as I look.
Well, we're on radio, so that's a good thing. But by the way, Mark Hanf has shaved off his mustache and beard. We can see that handsome face yet again. Okay, now a couple of quick things here. First of all, in the news recently, an owner of 40 Denny's restaurants. So this guy owns 40 different Denny's restaurants. He says he's going to start charging 5% surcharge to offset Obamacare. That's coming up pretty soon. And, I guess it's legal because, SF charges, 3.5% to 4% surcharge for city's healthcare ordinance. But here's the question. How much of the money actually works its way into the workers' health benefits? Another surcharge.
This would be a more interesting story if it were a restaurant other than Denny's. I mean, come on. They have had their racial issues of the past. Now you've got Obama, who, is an African-American president. I just, the correlation there just bothers me.
Yeah. I don't like that word of African-American. I mean, I'm not European-American. I'm American. He's American. He doesn't come from Africa. Well, he actually might. He actually might from Kenya, but but the typical person is, they're just Americans.
Well, you're saying you don't like political correctness?
No, I am not a PC man. I'm not an Apple man, so I guess I am a PC man. Okay, meaning personal computer. Okay,
Yes.
Mark, you had a couple of articles that you thought were interesting.
Yeah, well, one in particular, there was a noteworthy article about real estate, and since I'm a real estate guy, I'm always bringing real estate articles to the show. And this past weekend, and it featured several past Best of Investing guests, including actually, Brian Burke of Praxis Capital was featured prominently in this article. He was a former co-host, and Jeff Lerman, noteworthy San Rafael real estate attorney, who's been our guest, I think, twice on the show.
That's correct.
We're both quoted in there, but I got to say, I'll talk about the article just in a moment. I think it's a little bit of a puff piece because anybody who knows anything about real estate or has been watching the real estate market, kind of already knows most of what they talked about. The title was "Investors Rushing into Real Estate Deals," and the very first sentence kind of bugged me. It says, real estate investors, an increasingly potent force in the Bay Area market during the housing downturn, are rushing to lock up deals before rising home prices wipe out their chances for profit. And I kind of scratched my head and said, what? Now, if prices are going up, they're going up on both sides. First of all, real estate investors are buying homes at distressed prices because if they're buying it to flip or buying it for upward appreciation, they're buying it at a price that provides them the opportunity to add value through remodeling and ultimately flipping the price. So they're.
I think what they're getting at is if prices go too high, then it's not going to be worth it for these investors to buy them, put in money and try to
Well,
flip
you know, I just don't agree with that.
Because in
I think
theory,
a real
the
estate,
prices are still- yeah,
if
I
you're
see
a
what
good
you're
real
saying.
estate investor, you can make money in real estate no matter what the market is doing.
That's true.
Even when the market was going down in 2008, you could buy, fix, and flip in 2008, get in and out of a property within a 90 to 120 day period while prices were declining and still make a profit.
And that's because they bought it right.
That's because you always, you're buying it
Yeah.
right. Now, if you
That's
buy
always
it
the case, yeah.
incorrectly, I mean, people always lose money in real estate by buying wrong or not doing enough due diligence.
Or sometimes they get lucky and they can buy at any price, and if it goes up, they
Yeah.
can still make money in that.
Another sentence said, the window of opportunity is rapidly closing as prices rise. Over the next 18 months, profit margins in single-family opportunistic buying will be compressed quite a bit. And, I guess, when you make a statement like that, you must assume that there is no appreciation. And so, again, I just don't agree with that.
Oh, I hear what you're saying, because in theory, if all prices are going up, then the price...
They're going up on both sides.
Yeah, I hear
If
what you're
the distressed prices are increasing, the resale, the post-remodel, the so-called
Yeah, those are-
after-repaired value,
so you're still
as we
gonna get
call
your
it.
profit.
Right, in
I
real
get
estate,
it.
we always work toward the ARV, the after-repaired value. So you buy real estate and go, if I fix it up, how much can I sell it for? That's your ARV, your after-repaired value, and you're solving for that. Both sides are going to continue to increase. It just doesn't happen on one side. You can't say, well, I can't get a good deal on a house
So what do
anymore
you think
because
they're getting at, then?
Well, I don't know. I just think the article is if the point of the article is, hey, you better buy now because otherwise you're going to miss out, that's nonsense. Real estate is going to be a good bargain for the foreseeable future. In fact, it's never not a good bargain, in my opinion, to invest in real estate.
Yeah, it's just a matter of which
Equity
one. And
always happens in one shape, form, or another.
there you go. From Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money. He has spoken. Okay, hey guys, we're going to have to do it, guys. It's just you and me today. Thoughts for the day. It's always darkest before the dawn. So, if you're going to steal your neighbor's newspaper, that's the time to do it. And I went to church last Sunday, and the pastor said that we work for God. So I stood up and yelled, I want a raise. And yes, I was shown the exit. Okay, next week is going to be a special one because it's just, it'll be just after Thanksgiving. And Irene McDermott is going to give us some pointers regarding travel, the best frequent flyer cards to use, and other great tips. It's going to be a great show. You're not going to want to miss it. And tune in next week to The Best of Investing, because we're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. And your favorite host, your favorite co-host, Mark Hoff, will be with me, your favorite host, Edward Brown. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.